As a police officer in California, I've seen my fair share of the unusual, but nothing could have prepared me for the assignment that awaited me in the dense forests of Pennsylvania. It all began with a call from the state's law enforcement agency requesting assistance from officers with experience in handling strange occurrences. Rumors of paranormal activities had surfaced, and they were looking for a team to investigate. I was chosen not only because of my experience, but also due to my reputation for keeping a calm head in tense situations. When we received the briefing, the atmosphere in the room was thick with skepticism, mixed with a hint of intrigue. The lead investigator explained that a number of hikers had reported bizarre incidents: sudden drops in temperature, disembodied voices, strange lights flickering among the trees, and even sightings of figures that vanished upon closer inspection. Most of us chuckled it off, attributing it to overactive imaginations fueled by urban legends. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it. After gathering our gear and discussing strategies, I found myself in a mix of excitement and trepidation. We were about to venture into a forest that had become the focal point of some deeply unsettling stories. As we drove toward Pennsylvania, I tried to prepare myself mentally. I had always relied on rational explanations for the bizarre events I had encountered in my career, but deep down, I was aware that this assignment might challenge those beliefs. Upon arrival, the first thing that struck me was the sheer size of the forest. Towering trees stretched infinitely into the sky, their dense canopies blocking out most of the sunlight. The air was thick with humidity, and an eerie silence enveloped the area, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant bird calls. It was beautiful, yet foreboding, a perfect setting for the strange happenings we were there to investigate. Our team consisted of 5 officers, each bringing unique skills to the table. There was Detective Lisa, a seasoned investigator with a knack for reading people. Officer James, a tech whiz who set up surveillance equipment. Officer Ramirez, known for his tracking abilities. And Officer Chen, a rookie eager to prove himself. I took on the role of team leader, hoping my experience would guide us through what lay ahead. We set up our base camp at a clearing near the edge of the forest, a location chosen for its accessibility and relative safety. As night descended, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The sounds of the forest transformed. The gentle rustle of leaves was replaced by an unsettling stillness. The air felt charged, as if something unseen was watching us. I attempted to keep the mood light, cracking jokes to ease the tension, but I could tell that my team was starting to feel the weight of the unknown. After a brief orientation, we decided to split into 2 groups to cover more ground. My team would head east, while Lisa and Ramirez would venture west. As we navigated deeper into the woods, the sun set behind us, casting long shadows that danced ominously among the trees. The trail became less defined, and the darkness enveloped us, making every sound seem amplified. I felt a chill creep down my spine, but I reminded myself to stay focused and rational as we walked. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. Occasionally, I caught glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye, but whenever I turned to look, there was nothing there, just the trees standing sentinel in the dusk. James was setting up cameras and motion sensors, his eyes darting nervously around. "Do you really think we're going to encounter anything?" he asked, half-jokingly. I shrugged, unsure of how to answer. The truth was that I didn't know what to expect. After a couple of hours of exploring, we decided to take a break. We sat on a fallen log, sipping water and trying to shake off the creeping unease. "Have you ever heard of the legend of the Forest Watchers?" Ramirez asked, breaking the silence. I hadn't, but he explained that local folklore spoke of spectral figures that roamed the woods at night, ensuring the forest remained undisturbed. "They say if you hear whispers, You should leave immediately," he added, his voice tinged with seriousness. As if on cue, a faint whisper floated through the trees, barely audible, but chilling nonetheless. My heart raced, and I exchanged glances with my team. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice a low murmur. They nodded, eyes wide with disbelief. The whispers faded, leaving an unsettling silence in their wake. This wasn't a prank. Something was clearly off. We decided to investigate the source of the sound, moving cautiously toward where it seemed to originate. Each step felt heavier, as if the forest itself was trying to keep us from moving forward. The shadows grew longer, and the atmosphere thickened, wrapping us in an almost tangible tension. Suddenly, James's camera picked up something of fleeting movement caught in the lens. "Did you see that?" he exclaimed, pointing to the screen. We huddled around him, watching as a figure darted between the trees. It was blurry, almost like a mirage, but it sent chills down my spine. "We need to investigate further," I said, my instincts kicking in despite the rising fear. As we pressed on, the whispers returned, louder this time, echoing through the trees as if they were calling to us. They felt urgent, almost pleading. I glanced back at my team, their faces a mix of fear and determination. We were in deep now. There was no turning back. What had started as a routine investigation was quickly spiraling into something far more unsettling the deeper we ventured. The more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew colder, and an inexplicable sense of dread settled in my stomach. It felt as if the forest itself was alive, breathing, watching, waiting for something. I tried to reassure my team, but even I was beginning to doubt our ability to handle whatever awaited us. Eventually, we arrived at an old, abandoned cabin, half hidden by the underbrush. Its weathered exterior seemed to blend into the forest, and a foreboding aura surrounded it. "What do you think happened here?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, unsure. The cabin felt like a relic, a remnant of something long forgotten. As we approached, the whispers became almost a chorus, swirling around us, urging us closer. I reached for the door, feeling an inexplicable compulsion to enter. Just as I pushed, it opened. A cold breeze swept through the clearing, extinguishing our flashlights. Darkness enveloped us, amplifying the whispers into a cacophony of voices. Panic surged within me, and I instinctively grabbed my radio, my fingers trembling. "Everyone, stay close. We need to regroup," I shouted, my voice barely piercing the overwhelming noise. But as I turned, I realized my team was gone. The darkness had swallowed them whole. In that moment, the realization hit me. We were not just investigating. We were intruders in a realm that defied understanding. What should have been a routine exploration had evolved into a nightmare I could never have anticipated. The whispers, the shadows, the inexplicable presence, it all pointed to something far more sinister than I had ever imagined. The forest was alive, and it was hungry for more than just our fear. It craved our very essence. Alone in the darkness, surrounded by voices that beckoned and warned, I understood that my life would never be the same. The events that unfolded that night would haunt me for years to come. A chilling reminder of what lay in the shadows of the Pennsylvania woods. As the chilling echoes of the whispers wrapped around me in the dense Pennsylvania forest, I realized that this was not just an assignment or a routine investigation. It was a journey into the unknown, an exploration of not only the landscape, but also the very fabric of fear that binds us all. Each member of our team, with their distinct backgrounds and personalities, brought a unique lens through which we could view the unfolding mystery. Javier Martinez was the seasoned officer whose calm demeanor had earned him respect within our department. He had seen countless situations that tested his limits, yet he carried an air of confidence that reassured those around him. His experience in handling the unpredictable nature of human behavior had prepared him well for this assignment. But even he was visibly affected as the atmosphere thickened with unease. Javier had always been the one to ground me. His practical approach to problems made me feel secure. Yet, as the shadows closed in, I noticed a flicker of doubt cross his usually steadfast face. Detective Lisa Chen, on the other hand, was a different story. She had a reputation for being intuitive, her instincts often leading her to uncover hidden truths that others overlooked. Lisa's sharp mind was complemented by her passion for solving puzzles, making her an invaluable asset in our exploration. However, as the night wore on, I could see the toll the environment was taking on her. Her brow furrowed, and her usually inquisitive nature shifted toward apprehension. The whispers grew louder, blending with her thoughts, and I wondered if she was starting to feel the weight of the legends that haunted this forest. Officer James Ramirez was the tech-savvy member of our crew, known for his ability to adapt quickly to any situation. His enthusiasm for gadgets and surveillance equipment was infectious, but in the face of the unknown, I sensed his bravado waver. As we set up cameras, I could see his hands shaking slightly, a telltale sign that he was struggling to maintain his cool. James had a tendency to laugh off fear, often using humor to deflect anxiety, but tonight felt different. The darkness seemed to seep into his spirit, testing his resolve. Officer Clara was the rookie, eager to prove herself, but also acutely aware of the stakes involved. She had idolized the idea of being a police officer, but as we delved deeper into the forest, I could see her bravado crumbling. The stories of the forest watchers and the strange occurrences began to haunt her thoughts. I admired her spirit, yet I felt a pang of protectiveness toward her. The forest wasn't just a backdrop. It was an entity that preyed on our fears, and I worried about how it would affect her. The forest itself felt like a character in this unfolding drama. Towering trees loomed over us, their gnarled branches twisting towards the sky like skeletal fingers. The underbrush was thick, creating a labyrinth of shadows that played tricks on our eyes. As we ventured deeper, the silence became oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a night creature. I couldn't shake the feeling that the woods were alive, pulsating with a history that was both beautiful and terrifying. The air was heavy with moisture, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Each step we took felt deliberate, as if the ground itself was conspiring to hold us back. I could sense the history in these woods, the countless tales of those who had come before us, their experiences woven into the very fabric of the landscape. The legends were not just stories. They were warnings etched in the minds of those who had dared to tread here. As we approached the abandoned cabin, I felt an urge to step back. The structure stood as a stark reminder of human presence, yet it felt as though it had been forgotten by time. The wood was weathered and gray, its surfaces cracking and splintering like the souls that had once inhabited it. I could only imagine the families who had gathered around its hearth, sharing stories and laughter, unaware of the shadows that lurked just outside their door. Inside the cabin, we were met with a musty odor, the scent of mildew mingling with the remnants of old wood. Dust motes danced in the faint light of our flashlights, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I could see my team exchanging uneasy glances. This place was a relic of the past, a tomb for memories long forgotten. As we explored the interior, I took note of the scattered belongings: a rusted kettle, a cracked mirror, and faded photographs that hinted at lives once lived. Each item seemed to hold a story, a fragment of human experience trapped in time. I wondered about the people who had come here seeking solace, only to be met with the unknown. What had driven them away, and what lingered in the air that made them abandon their sanctuary. Amidst the decay, I found a journal tucked away in a dusty corner. Its pages were yellowed, filled with frantic scrawls that spoke of fear and desperation. The last entry read, "They are watching. I can feel them." We should have left when we had the chance. My heart raced as I realized that this was not just a record of daily life. It was a testament to the very terror we were here to investigate. The forest seemed to close in around us as we read the words aloud, amplifying our collective unease. The whispers rose to a crescendo, echoing the fears expressed in the journal. It was as if the very essence of the forest was alive, feeding on our apprehension and beckoning us to delve deeper into its secrets. I felt a pull, an almost magnetic force urging me to uncover the truth, but I was acutely aware of the dangers that lay ahead. We regrouped outside the cabin, the weight of the revelations heavy on our shoulders. The forest was no longer just a backdrop. It was a character steeped in history, a living entity that thrived on fear and uncertainty. Our mission had shifted from mere investigation to survival, and I could feel the resolve of my team wavering. The stories we had heard, the legends we had dismissed, were they all rooted in some grim reality? As we stood in the clearing, the shadows danced around us, feeding into our fears and doubts. I could see the strain etched on my team's faces, the weight of our surroundings pressing down on them. It was more than just the darkness. It was the unshakable knowledge that we were not alone. The forest was a witness to our fears, a keeper of secrets that we were perhaps never meant to uncover. In that moment, I made a silent vow. We would face whatever lay ahead together. The bonds forged in this eerie wilderness would either strengthen us or tear us apart. But we had come too far, and I refused to let fear dictate our fate. The journey was becoming more than just an investigation. It was a test of our resilience, our unity, and our will to confront whatever haunted these woods. As we prepared to venture further, I glanced at each member of my team. We were no longer just officers. We were a collective spirit, bound by the courage to confront the unknown. The forest awaited us, and with it, the echoes of countless stories yet to be told. As we stood at the edge of the clearing, the tension palpable, I realized that our investigation into the paranormal phenomena of the Pennsylvania forest was more than just a search for answers. It was an opportunity to confront our personal demons and the complexities that lay within each of us. The forest, with its haunting whispers and shadowy figures, seemed to mirror the struggles we faced as individuals, and these subplots began to intertwine with our primary mission. Javier, the seasoned officer, had always been the embodiment of authority and stability. Yet, beneath his composed exterior, there was a well of unresolved trauma. Years of service had exposed him to the darker sides of humanity, and he carried the weight of each case like a stone in his heart. I had often noticed him staring off into the distance, lost in thoughts that seemed to haunt him. As we delved deeper into the forest, I could see that the intensity of the night was drawing these burdens to the surface. The whispers that surrounded us appeared to echo his internal struggles, stirring memories of cases he had never fully processed. While Javier grappled with his past, Lisa was wrestling with her identity as a detective. Her intuition had always been her greatest asset, but in a world filled with rational explanations, she often felt like an outsider. The legends of the forest challenged her beliefs, forcing her to confront the very foundation of her perception of reality. As the whispers grew louder, I could see her becoming increasingly agitated. She was torn between her scientific mind and the inexplicable phenomena we were encountering. This inner conflict manifested in her interactions with the team, causing her to lash out at times, frustrated by her inability to reconcile these two worlds. James, the tech guru, was struggling with his own sense of inadequacy. He had always relied on gadgets to provide answers, But in this forest, technology felt almost futile. The cameras and sensors we had set up were picking up anomalies, but nothing concrete. Each time he reviewed the footage, I could see his frustration mounting. He had hoped to capture something definitive, a piece of evidence to validate his skills. Instead, he found himself questioning his place in the team. In the face of the unknown, his bravado began to crack, revealing a vulnerability that was both surprising and relatable. Clara, our rookie, was experiencing a different kind of turmoil. As the youngest member of our team, she felt the weight of proving herself, not just to us, but to herself. The stories of the forest had ignited her imagination, but as we ventured deeper, the reality of our situation began to sink in. Fear gripped her, and it was evident in her wide eyes and shaky hands. She had always dreamed of being a police officer, but now she was confronted with the terrifying possibility that the supernatural could exist. Her journey was one of self-discovery, as she learned to balance her idealism with the harsh truths of the world around her. As we continued our exploration, the dynamics within the group shifted. The dark atmosphere of the forest and the mounting tension began to fracture our camaraderie. Javier's unresolved trauma weighed heavily on him, and he became increasingly withdrawn. Lisa's frustration manifested in sharp words, creating rifts that were difficult to mend. James, feeling inadequate, retreated into himself, poring over the data with obsessive focus. Clara, caught in the crossfire, struggled to find her voice amidst the chaos. The forest, with its eerie beauty, seemed to respond to our turmoil. The whispers grew more insistent, as if feeding off our fears and frustrations. Shadows danced just beyond our line of sight, and we began to see flickers of movement that made our hearts race. It was as though the very essence of the woods was alive, attuned to our emotional states. Each step deeper into the forest felt like a descent into our own psyches, where our insecurities and fears lay waiting to be confronted. One night, as we gathered around the dying embers of our campfire, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. I decided to break the silence, hoping to bridge the growing divide among us. We're all here for a reason, I began, looking at each of my team members. This forest may be testing us, but we need to remember that we're stronger together. Javier looked up, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames. It's easy to forget that when you're haunted by your past, he admitted, his voice low. I've seen things that haunt me, things I can't unsee. This place, it feels like it's pulling at those memories. Lisa nodded, her expression softening. I get it. I sometimes feel like I'm not enough, like I'm just chasing shadows in a world that demands proof. This forest challenges everything I believe in, James chimed in. I thought I could rely on technology to give me answers, but it feels so useless here. I want to be the one who uncovers the truth, but I'm struggling. Clara finally spoke up, her voice trembling but resolute. I've always wanted to be a cop because I thought it would be exciting. But now, I feel scared and lost. I thought I could handle anything, but this is different. As we shared our vulnerabilities, the whispers around us softened, and a sense of camaraderie began to rebuild. It became clear that the forest was not just a backdrop for our investigation. It was a catalyst for our personal growth. Each of us had our own battles to fight, and in confronting those battles, we were slowly becoming a stronger unit. The complexities of our emotions intertwined with the supernatural elements of the forest, creating a rich tapestry of fear, hope, and resilience. The stories we had heard about the forest watchers began to take on new meaning. They were not merely legends. They were reflections of our own fears and struggles. The forest was not just a place of darkness. It was a space for transformation. As we moved forward, I began to understand that our investigation was only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The complexities of our characters were intertwined with the very essence of the forest we were exploring. The whispers, the shadows, the legends, they all spoke to the human experience, to the trials we each faced in our lives. In that moment of vulnerability, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We were not just investigating paranormal activities. We were embarking on a journey of self-discovery and healing. The forest, with its mysteries, was a mirror reflecting our own complexities. Together, we would confront our fears, not just for the sake of the investigation, but for our own growth as individuals and as a team. As the fire crackled and the night deepened, I felt a shift within us. The bonds forged in that moment of honesty would carry us forward, guiding us through the darkness that awaited us in the heart of the Pennsylvania woods. The night wore on, the air thick with a tension that felt almost palpable. Despite our shared vulnerabilities around the campfire, the forest retained its ominous presence. The whispers had calmed, but they still lingered at the edges of our consciousness, a reminder that we were not alone. Just as we began to feel a sense of unity, the forest decided to challenge us in ways we could never have anticipated. It was close to midnight when the first real incident occurred. We had settled into a tentative peace, the crackling fire casting flickering shadows on our faces. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, echoing through the trees like a banshee's wail. It came from the direction of the abandoned cabin, and in an instant, all our previous discussions and fears were overshadowed by the urgency of the moment. "Did you hear that?" Clara exclaimed, her eyes wide with terror. The bravado she had shown earlier was replaced by sheer panic. "Stay here," I commanded, my instincts kicking in. "Javier, Lisa, James, let's check it out." I felt a surge of adrenaline as we moved toward the cabin, the forest closing in around us, shadows twisting in the dim light of our flashlights. As we approached the cabin, the air grew colder, the temperature dropping sharply. It was as if the forest itself was warning us to turn back. The whispers returned, rising in intensity, swirling like a tempest around us. The cabin loomed ahead, its door ajar, swaying slightly as if inviting us in. I could sense the collective hesitation among my team, but we pressed on, compelled by the urgency of the scream. Inside, the atmosphere felt charged with a strange energy. The air was thick and stale, filled with the musty scent of decay. I shined my flashlight around the room, revealing the remnants of what once was a shattered table, overturned chairs, and the same journal I had found earlier. But what caught my eye was a figure in the far corner, huddled and shaking. "James," I called, recognizing him. "What happened?" He looked up, his face pale and eyes wide with terror. I thought I saw something," he stammered. "Something moved outside, and then I heard the scream. I panicked and ran back here." "Where is everyone else?" I asked, my heart racing. They went to check the perimeter," he replied, his voice trembling. "I couldn't stay out there. I felt like something was watching me." Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by a series of frantic footsteps. The rest of the team returned, breathless and wide-eyed. Lisa was the first to speak. "We saw something moving in the trees. It was fast, too fast. It felt like it was watching us. Did you see what it was?" I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady. "No, just shadows," Javier said, his usual calm demeanor cracking. But it felt wrong, like it was alive. The tension in the room escalated as the whispers grew louder, filling our ears with an unsettling chorus. The cabin felt like a trap, our sanctuary now transformed into a prison. I could sense the panic rising within my team, and I knew we had to. Make a decision. All right, everyone. Let's regroup outside and assess the situation, I said firmly. We can't let fear dictate our actions. We need to stick together. As we stepped out into the night, the moonlight cast an eerie glow over the forest. The trees seemed to sway, almost as if they were breathing. The whispers intensified, wrapping around us like a shroud. I could feel the weight of the forest pressing down on us as we gathered in a tight circle, our flashlights illuminating the darkness. Let's set up a perimeter, I suggested, trying to maintain control of the situation. We need to keep an eye on the surroundings and make sure we're safe. As we began to work, I noticed Clara standing off to the side, her hands shaking. I can't do this, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. I thought I could, but I'm scared. I approached her, my heart aching for her. It's okay to be scared, Clara. We all are. But we need you. You're part of this team, and we're stronger together. She took a deep breath, nodding slowly, but I could see the fear still etched on her face. I turned back to the others, hoping to distract myself from the growing sense of dread. As we set up our flashlights to create a barrier of light, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us from the shadows. Suddenly, the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, drowning out everything else. I felt a surge of panic as shadows darted among the trees, flickering just beyond the reach of our light. Then, without warning, the lights from our flashlights began to flicker and fade, plunging us into darkness. Everyone, stay close, I shouted, my voice barely rising above the cacophony of the whispers. I could hear my team's breaths quickening, their fear palpable in the air dot in the darkness. I felt a presence, something cold and malevolent. It was as if the forest itself had come alive, its shadows reaching out to ensnare us. A figure materialized. In the darkness, a silhouette that seemed to pulse with energy. My heart raced as I realized that we were not just facing our fears. We were confronting something beyond our understanding. Move back, I yelled, instinctively pushing Clara. Behind me, James, Lisa, and Javier stood at the ready, their eyes darting around as they tried to discern what was happening. The figure stepped forward, illuminated momentarily by the flickering light of our flashlights. What I saw sent chills down my spine. It was a humanoid shape, but its features were obscured, as if it were made of shadows. The whispers coalesced into a single voice, resonating deep within my mind. Leave this place, it warned, a tone of authority mixed with desperation. You do not belong here. In that moment, everything shifted. The urgency of our investigation morphed into a fight for survival. The forest, with its malevolent spirit, sought to expel us to protect its secrets at all costs. I could feel my team's resolve faltering as fear gripped them. Stay together, I urged, trying to maintain some semblance of control. We can't let it divide us. As we moved toward the perimeter, the shadows shifted, closing in on us from all sides. The whispers grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. I struggled to maintain focus, to guide my team through the chaos. The forest was alive with energy, its very essence pushing against us, urging us to flee. In the midst of the turmoil, I felt a surge of determination. I had to protect my team, to ensure that we made it out together. We need to find the cabin. Again, I shouted, hoping that familiarity would ground us. Let's go. With that, we turned and sprinted back toward the cabin, adrenaline fueling our movements. The shadows clawed at our heels, the whispers swirling around us like a storm. I could hear Clara's panicked breaths behind me, and I reached back to grasp her hand, pulling her closer. As we reached the cabin, I pushed open the door and we all stumbled inside, slamming it shut behind us. The darkness enveloped us once more, but this time we were together, united against the forces that sought to tear us apart. Panting, we circled the room, desperate for answers. The journal lay open on the floor, the last words etched in ink glaring at us. They are watching. I can feel them. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the peril we faced. Now what? Lisa asked, her voice trembling. What do we do? We need to confront it, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Whatever is out there, it's feeding off our fear. We must stand together and face it. The shadows outside shifted ominously, and the whispers intensified, but I felt a growing sense of resolve among my team. We had ventured into the unknown, confronted our fears, and now it was time to reclaim our power. As I looked around at my team, I could see the flicker of determination in their eyes. We would not let the darkness consume us. Together, we would face whatever haunted these woods, ready to uncover the truth and reclaim our lives. The atmosphere inside the cabin was thick with uncertainty and tension, the echoes of our fears still reverberating in our minds. We huddled together, the shadows of the forest pressing against the walls like a living entity intent on suffocating us. The confrontation with the unknown had shaken our resolve, but it also ignited something deeper, a determination to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As I glanced around the room, I could see the effects of our encounter etched on my team's faces. Clara was trembling, her wide eyes reflecting a mix of terror and resilience. The fear that had paralyzed her moments ago was slowly being replaced by a fiery resolve. She had faced the entity, and though it had terrified her, she was now willing to confront her own limitations. Did you see it? She whispered, her voice barely above a breath. It felt like it was alive. It was, Lisa interjected, her brow furrowed in thought. Whatever that was, it wasn't just a figment of our imagination. It was real, and it wants us to leave. Javier, still processing the encounter, shook his head. We can't just run away. If we leave without understanding what we're dealing with, it might come after us. We need to figure out why it's here and what it wants. James, usually the most tech-oriented of us all, sat on the floor, his hands gripping his knees tightly. But how do we do that? We barely survived the last encounter. What if it's stronger than we think? What if it's waiting for us to make a mistake? His words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the danger we faced. The forest was no longer just a setting. It had morphed into a battleground of wills. Let's focus on what we know, I proposed, trying to steer the conversation back to a productive direction. That journal mentioned the forest watchers. Maybe there's a connection between them and what we experienced, or maybe the watchers are the ones who are trying to protect us, Clara suggested, her voice gaining strength. What if they're the reason we're still here? They might be trying to warn us. Lisa nodded, her analytical mind racing. If that's the case, we need to understand who or what they are. The legends might hold the key to our survival. We need to dig deeper into the history of this place. The group began to rally around this new focus, a shift from fear to purpose. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. We were channeling our experiences into a plan of action. But as we gathered our thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was watching us, waiting for our next move. Let's split up and search the cabin, I suggested. We need to look for anything that might give us insight into the watchers or the entity outside. The more knowledge we have, the better prepared we'll be. The team nodded, and we began to search the cabin methodically. Each member took a section, scouring the remnants of the past for clues. The tension in the air was palpable as we rifled through drawers, overturned furniture, and examined the walls. Every creak of the old wood made our hearts race, but we pushed through the fear. Driven by our collective resolve, Clara and I found a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards, revealing a collection of faded photographs and newspaper clippings. The images showed families who had lived in the forest long ago, some smiling in front of the very cabin we occupied, but others depicted mysterious disappearances and strange occurrences that plagued the area. The headlines screamed of fear and uncertainty, and I could feel the weight of history pressing down on us. "Look at this," I said, holding up a clipping. It mentioned sightings of shadowy figures and whispers in the woods. "This has been happening for decades. What if the forest watchers are the spirits of those who vanished?" Clara speculated, her voice a mix of excitement and dread. "Maybe they're trying to communicate with us, to warn us about the entity." Just then, James called out from the other side of the cabin. "I found something." We hurried over to him, curiosity piqued. He was crouched beside a bookshelf, pulling out an old, leather-bound book. "This looks like a journal," he said, flipping through the brittle pages. "It's written by someone who lived here long ago. They documented strange events and rituals performed to appease the spirits of the forest." As he read aloud, the atmosphere shifted. The journal described offerings made to the forest watchers, rituals intended to create harmony between the living and the spirits. The author emphasized the importance of respect and understanding, cautioning against disturbing the balance. "This is it," Lisa said, her eyes lighting up. "This could be the key to understanding what we're facing. If we can find a way to connect with the watchers, maybe we can negotiate our safety." The idea of rituals and offerings felt foreign yet strangely compelling. I could sense the urgency in the group. We were grasping at straws, but it felt like our best shot at survival. "We need to find a way to honor the watchers," I suggested. "Maybe we can perform one of the rituals described here to show our respect. If they are our protectors, perhaps they will help us." Javier nodded, determination etched on his face. "Let's gather what we need from the woods. If there's a chance this could work, we have to try." With a renewed sense of purpose, we left the cabin, stepping back into the suffocating darkness of the forest. The whispers had quieted, but the shadows felt alive, as if they were anticipating our every move. Armed with the knowledge from the journal, we began to collect items, stones, leaves, and anything that felt significant. As we worked, I noticed the change in the group's dynamics. The initial panic had transformed into a collaborative spirit. Clara, who moments ago had been paralyzed with fear, was now leading the charge, her eyes filled with determination. Lisa, usually a strategist, was improvising, combining elements from the journal with her own insights. Yet, amid the newfound camaraderie, I could feel the weight of consequences looming. We were stepping into uncharted territory, and the forest had already demonstrated its capacity for danger. What if the ritual failed? What if we angered the very spirits we sought to appease? As we gathered the last of our offerings, I felt a sense of urgency. Time was slipping away, and the darkness surrounding us felt heavier than before. We needed to act quickly, to confront the entity and our fears head-on. Returning to the cabin, we set up a small altar using the items we had collected. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, each of us acutely aware of the stakes involved. We lit candles and arranged the offerings carefully, following the guidelines from the journal as best we could. "Are we ready?" I asked, looking around at my team. The flickering candlelight illuminated their faces, revealing a mixture of fear and resolve. "Let's do this," Clara said, her voice steady. As we began the ritual, I could feel the air shift around us. The whispers returned, but this time, they felt different, less menacing, and more like a chorus of voices attempting to guide us. We recited the words from the journal, our voices trembling but unified. Suddenly, the shadows outside began to dance, swirling in response to our incantation. The candles flickered violently, and the temperature dropped, causing a chill to run through us. I glanced at my team, and I could see the fear reflected in their eyes, but we pressed on, fueled by our collective hope. The whispers crescendoed, merging into a single voice that resonated deep within the cabin. "You seek understanding," it said, echoing the very essence of our fears and desires. "But do you truly respect the balance?" In that moment, I knew that our actions would determine our fate. The consequences of our journey had come full circle, and we stood at the precipice of a choice that would either lead us to salvation or doom. The energy in the cabin shifted dramatically as the voice echoed through the air, wrapping around us like a thick fog. As we stood together, reciting the words from the journal, I could feel the weight of our fears and hopes pressing down on us. The shadows outside danced in response, swirling chaotically, but I sensed a glimmer of potential. Within the chaos, a chance for redemption, for understanding. "Do you truly respect the balance?" The voice repeated, its tone both commanding and curious. Each word resonated deeply within me, stirring something long buried. It was as if the forest itself was challenging us to confront our intentions and our very selves. "Who are you?" I found my voice, steady despite the fear coursing through my veins. "We come in peace, seeking to understand." The air crackled, and for a moment, the shadows outside coalesced into a figure indistinct, yet undeniably present. It wasn't threatening. Rather, it felt like a guardian, a being that had witnessed the trials of countless souls who had ventured. "Into these woods, you seek knowledge," the figure replied, the whispers fading into a soft murmur. "But knowledge comes with responsibility. The balance of this forest is delicate. Many have come seeking power without understanding the consequences of their actions." My heart raced as I realized the importance of this moment. This was more than just a confrontation with a supernatural entity. It was a reckoning with everything we had faced: our fears, our insecurities, our pasts. We had entered this forest as individuals, but now we stood together, united in our purpose. "We understand," I said, my voice firm. "We have faced our fears and learned from our experiences. We want to honor this place and its history, not disrupt it. We seek to protect the balance." As I spoke, I could see the effects of our journey written on the faces of my team. Clara, who had once been paralyzed by fear, now stood with her shoulders squared and a fierce light in her eyes. She had come to recognize her strength transformed. From a frightened rookie into a determined ally, James, too, had undergone a transformation. The tech-savvy officer who had once relied solely on gadgets was now embracing the unknown, finding value in intuition and camaraderie. He stood beside Clara, a look of determination on his face, the fear that had once gripped him replaced by a sense of purpose. Lisa, always the skeptic, had begun to reconcile her scientific mind with the inexplicable phenomena around us. She was no longer just chasing evidence. She was willing to embrace the mysteries of the forest, recognizing the importance of intuition alongside logic. I could see her mind racing, processing the significance of our collective experience. Javier, our seasoned officer, had moved from a place of isolation to one of solidarity. He had faced his past demons and emerged willing to share his burdens with us. His presence provided a calming influence, grounding us in the midst of the chaos. "Together, we are stronger," I continued, feeling a surge of energy. "We want to learn from you, to understand the history of this forest and the role of the forest watchers. We're here to protect this balance, not to disrupt it, The shadowy figure seemed to contemplate our words, the whispers swirling around us like a gentle breeze. "Your intentions are genuine," it finally said, its voice softer now. "But the path ahead will not be easy. To understand the balance, you must confront the darkness within yourselves, as well as the darkness in this forest. Only then can you truly honor the watchers." I felt a chill run down my spine. The idea of confronting our own darkness was daunting, but I understood its significance. Each of us had come to this forest carrying our own burdens, fears, regrets, and unresolved issues. The journey ahead would require us to face these truths, to embrace vulnerability, and to grow from our experiences. What must we do? I asked, my heart pounding. Return to the places where your fears lie. Face them head on, not in isolation, but together. Only by confronting your past can you hope to protect the future. The forest will guide you. With that, the figure began to dissolve into the shadows, leaving behind an aura of calm. The whispers softened, transforming into a gentle hum, as if the very essence of the forest was urging us forward. As the figure disappeared, we gathered in a tight circle, our hearts racing. Each of us understood that the real challenge lay ahead. We had survived the confrontation, but now we had to confront our individual truths. Where do we begin? Clara asked, her voice steady. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. We start with honesty. We share what we've been holding inside, what we fear the most. Only by facing these truths can we hope to find the strength to confront whatever lies ahead. We took turns sharing our stories, each revelation a step toward healing. Clara spoke of her insecurities, her desire to prove herself in a world that often felt overwhelming. She revealed how her idealism had been shattered by the harsh realities of police work, but how this experience had ignited a new fire within her. James shared his struggles with feeling inadequate, his reliance on technology as a shield against vulnerability. He admitted that the forest had forced him to confront his fears and accept that he didn't need gadgets to prove his worth. He was learning to trust his instincts and his team. Lisa opened up about her skepticism, her fear of being wrong, and how it had driven her to seek evidence over intuition. She now recognized that the unknown was not something to fear, but to explore. The forest had challenged her beliefs and had opened her mind to new possibilities. Javier, too, found the courage to share his past. He spoke of the cases that haunted him, the lives he couldn't save, and how it had made him wary of forming connections. But standing there with us, he felt the weight lift, realizing that he didn't have to carry those burdens alone. As we shared, the air grew lighter, the shadows receding as if the forest itself was listening. We embraced our vulnerabilities, and with each confession, we also acknowledged our growth. At last, the circle closed, and I could feel a renewed sense of purpose binding us together. We had faced our fears and emerged stronger, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited us in the forest. We know what we must do, I said, my voice steady. We'll return to the heart of the forest, confront the shadows, and honor the forest watchers. Together, we will protect the balance with our spirits lifted. We gathered our offerings once more, the weight of our shared experiences transforming into a resolute determination. The path ahead would not be easy, but we were ready to face it. Together. As we stepped out of the cabin, the forest welcomed us back, the whispers now a gentle guide. The shadows danced around us, but instead of fear, we felt a sense of connection. We were not intruders. We were allies in the quest for understanding. The journey ahead would challenge us in ways we could not yet fathom, but armed with our newfound strength and unity, we were ready to confront the darkness and emerge transformed. As we stepped back into the forest, The cool night air enveloped us like a shroud, thick with anticipation. The whispers, which had once felt ominous, now seemed to guide our every move, leading us deeper into the unknown. We had faced our fears and emerged stronger, but the real test lay ahead. The path to confronting the entity that haunted these woods was fraught with uncertainty, yet we felt resolute, united in purpose. Where do we go from here? Clara asked, her voice steady but tinged with anticipation. She had transformed from a frightened rookie into a courageous member of our team, her determination shining through the darkness. We need to find the clearing mentioned in the journal, I replied, recalling the passages we had studied. It's said to be a site of power, where the balance between the living and the spirits is strongest. Javier nodded. If we can perform the ritual there, we might have a better chance of reaching the forest watchers and confronting the entity directly. But we have to be cautious. The forest won't make this easy for us. As we began to navigate the winding paths, the trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, their branches intertwining to create a canopy that blocked out the moonlight. The darkness felt alive, pulsating with energy, and I could sense the forest watching, waiting for our next move. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation. As we pressed on, Lisa took the lead, her analytical mind mapping our route based on the journal's descriptions. There should be a series of rock formations that mark the way to the clearing, she said, her brow furrowed in concentration. If we can find those, we'll be close with each step. We grew more aware of the sounds around us, the rustling leaves, the distant hoots of owls, and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. It was as if the forest was alive, each sound amplifying our senses. We moved cautiously, our flashlights illuminating patches of ground while shadows danced just beyond our reach. As we continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being tested. The forest had already challenged us, forcing us to confront our fears and insecurities. Now it seemed to be gauging our resolve. Let's take a moment, I suggested, sensing the need for a brief pause. We've come a long way, and we need to gather our thoughts before we move forward. We found a small clearing surrounded by dense trees, a temporary refuge from the oppressive darkness. As we sat down, I could see the weight of the impending confrontation reflected in each of my team members' eyes. We shared silent glances, a mix of determination and apprehension swirling between us. Before we reach the clearing, we need to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally, I began, looking around at my team. This isn't just about the ritual. It's about facing the darkness that we've been avoiding both within ourselves and in this forest. Javier spoke up, his voice steady. We've already faced our fears, but we need to remember that this is a collective effort. We're stronger together, and we must support each other through whatever comes next. Lisa nodded, deep in thought. We should establish a plan for the ritual. We need to know what each of us will do when we reach the clearing. I pulled out the journal, flipping to the pages detailing the rituals. Here, I said, pointing to the instructions. The ritual requires us to create a circle and make offerings to the forest watchers. We should each bring something personal that represents our commitment to respecting the balance. I can offer a piece of jewelry that belonged to my grandmother, Clara said, her voice steady. She always taught me the importance of nature and respecting the earth. James looked thoughtful. I have a small stone I've carried with me since my first day on the job. It represents my journey and the lessons I've learned along the way. I'll bring some sage, Lisa added. It symbolizes purification and healing. I think it fits what we're trying to accomplish. Javier smiled, his eyes reflecting the flickering light of our flashlights. I have an old badge from my first case. It reminds me of why I became a police officer in the first place, to protect and serve. It's a symbol of my commitment to this mission. As we discussed our offerings, the atmosphere shifted from tense anticipation to a sense of purpose. Each item we chose held significance, representing our growth and the journey that had brought us to this moment. Let's also set intentions for the ritual, I proposed. What do we hope to achieve? Let's be clear about our desires as we move forward. Clara spoke first. I want to find clarity to understand my place in this world and to connect with the spirits of the forest. James added, I want to confront my fears and learn to trust my instincts without relying solely on technology. I hope to embrace the unknown, Lisa said, her voice filled with conviction. I want to find a balance between science and the mysteries of the universe. Javier looked at each of us, his gaze steady. I want to let go of my past burdens and protect those who cannot protect themselves. I hope to embrace a future without fear. As we set our intentions, I felt a surge of energy. The forest seemed to respond, the whispers becoming a soft hum of encouragement. We were aligning ourselves with a purpose greater than ourselves, ready to face whatever lay ahead. With our offerings chosen and intentions set, we prepared to move toward the clearing. The path ahead was still dark and fraught with uncertainty, but we felt a renewed sense of unity and strength. Remember, I said, looking at each of my teammates, we are not alone. We will face this together, no matter what happens. Trust in each other and in the forest. As we resumed our journey, the shadows around us seemed to shift, as if they were parting to reveal the way. The air grew warmer, the whispers now a gentle guide, urging us forward. As we approached the clearing, the forest opened up before us, revealing a vast expanse illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. The rock formation stood tall, marking the sacred ground where we would confront our fears and honor the forest watchers. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of connection, not just to my team, but to the very essence of the forest itself. We were ready to face whatever awaited us, armed with our shared experiences, our growth, and our unwavering resolve. With each step into the clearing, I felt the weight of our journey pressing against my chest, but it was accompanied by a sense of liberation. We had come too far to turn back now. The climax of our adventure loomed ahead, and together we would face the darkness, ready to embrace whatever transformation awaited us. As we stepped into the clearing, the moon hung high in the sky, casting an otherworldly glow over the scene. The rock formations surrounded us like ancient guardians, their surfaces worn smooth by time. The air was charged with energy, a palpable tension that thrummed beneath the surface, urging us to take our places in this sacred space. Stay close together, I instructed, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. We formed a circle, each of us clutching our offerings tightly, the significance of the moment weighing heavily on us. The whispers of the forest seemed to swell, intertwining with the rustling leaves, creating a symphony of anticipation. I glanced at my team, their faces illuminated by the soft moonlight. Clara, her hair catching the light, stood with a newfound confidence. James clenched the stone he had carried for years, and Lisa held the sage, its earthy scent filling the air. Javier, with the old badge in hand, looked resolute, embodying the spirit of protection he had always championed. Let's begin, I said, my heart pounding as I opened the journal to the ritual passage. We'll recite the words together. Focusing on our intentions and honoring the forest watchers, we took a collective breath, grounding ourselves in the present moment. As we began to speak the words of the ritual, the air around us vibrated with energy, the shadows of the forest dancing in response. Spirits of the forest, we come before you with respect and humility. We honor the balance of this land, seeking understanding and connection. Our voices rose and fell in unison, the cadence of our words echoing through the clearing. The intensity of the moment enveloped us, and I could feel the energy shifting, a vibrant current flowing through the ground. Beneath our feet, as we reached the heart of the incantation, the whispers grew louder, swirling around us like a tempest. It felt as though the very essence of the forest was awakening, responding to our call. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath us, and a gust of wind swept through the clearing, sending leaves spiraling into the air. "Keep going," I urged, my voice rising above the chaos. "We must remain focused." The shadows around us coalesced, taking on a more defined shape. I squinted into the darkness, trying to discern the figure emerging from the depths of the woods. It was tall and ethereal, its form a swirling mass of shadows and light. The figure seemed to pulse with energy, embodying both the power of the forest and the fears that had haunted us. "Why have you come?" The voice resonated deep and echoing, sending chills down my spine. "What do you seek in the heart of my domain?" I stepped forward, feeling the weight of my team's gaze. "We seek understanding," I said, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at my insides. "We want to honor the balance of this forest and protect its spirits. We wish to learn from you and the forest watchers." The figure shifted, its form flickering with intensity. "Many have come before you, driven by greed and ambition. They sought to control, to dominate. What makes you different?" I looked around at my team, their expressions a blend of determination and vulnerability. "We have faced our fears," I replied, my voice gaining strength. "We have learned from our experiences and have come together as a unified force. We understand the importance of respect and balance. We do not wish to control. We wish to coexist." The figure paused, the air thick with tension. The whispers quieted, and in that silence, I could feel the weight of the forest's history, the countless souls who had sought power without understanding, the spirits longing for acknowledgement. "Then prove it," the voice said, a challenge woven into its tone. "You must confront the darkness within yourselves, for it is the same darkness that permeates this forest. Only by facing it can you hope to protect the balance." As the words hung in the air, I felt a surge of fear wash over me. The figure was not merely a representation of the entity we had encountered. It was a reflection of our own struggles, our own darkness. Each member of the team stood on the precipice of a choice. Would we confront our inner demons, or would we allow them to consume us? "Together," I said, looking at each of my teammates, "we can face whatever darkness lies within." Clara stepped forward first, her voice trembling but resolute. "I have always been afraid of failure. I fear not living up to expectations, both my own and those of others. But I am ready to confront that fear." As she spoke, the shadows around her twisted and contorted, reflecting the internal struggle she faced. The figure before us shifted. As if acknowledging her courage, James followed suit, his grip tightening around the stone. "I fear inadequacy. I've hidden behind technology and data, afraid to trust my instincts. But I realize now that I need to embrace uncertainty and learn to believe in myself." With each confession, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows danced, swirling in response to our revelations, as if the forest itself was responding to our courage. Lisa stepped forward, her voice steady. "I've let my skepticism blind me to the wonders of the world. I fear being wrong, being vulnerable. But I want to learn to embrace the unknown and find a balance between logic and intuition." The figure loomed closer, the shadows thickening around her. "You are beginning to understand." Javier stood tall, his eyes reflecting determination. "I have carried guilt and regret for too long. I fear that I cannot protect those I care about. But I am ready to release that burden and embrace the present." As he spoke, the shadows around him began to recede, dissipating into the air. The figure nodded, the energy shifting once more, as if recognizing the weight of his words. Finally, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for my own revelation. I fear the unknown, the darkness that lurks within and outside myself. I've let it paralyze me, but I want to confront it head on. I want to protect my team and honor the spirits of this forest. The figure seemed to pulse with energy as I spoke, the shadows swirling in a storm of light and darkness. You have faced your fears with honesty and courage, it said, its voice resonating with approval. But the darkness is not merely an enemy. It is a part of you. Embrace it, and you will find strength. In that moment, I felt a shift within myself. The fears that had once held me captive began to lose their power. I understood that darkness was not something to be feared, but rather acknowledged and integrated into our lives. It was a part of the human experience, a source of strength if we learned to wield it wisely. Now, the figure continued, you must demonstrate your commitment to the balance. Each of you must offer your tokens, symbols of your growth and your willingness to respect the forest. We looked at our offerings, each item steeped in personal significance. One by one, we stepped forward to place our tokens at the center of the circle. Clara placed her grandmother's jewelry delicately. On the ground, a representation of her newfound confidence and respect for the earth. James followed, laying his stone down with reverence, a symbol of his journey toward self-acceptance. Lisa placed the sage, its fragrance filling the air, a reminder of purification and healing. Finally, Javier set his old badge down, a testament to his commitment to protect and serve. As we stepped back, the figure loomed larger, its form shimmering with power. The shadows enveloped our offerings, swirling around them in a dance of energy. You have honored the forest and confronted your darkness. The voice boomed, echoing through the clearing. In doing so, you have forged a bond with the forest. Watchers, the balance is restored. With that, the shadows began to recede, the figure dissolving into the night. The whispers transformed into a gentle breeze, wrapping around us like a comforting embrace. Relief washed over me as the tension in the air lifted. We had faced our fears, supported each other, and emerged transformed. The forest was no longer a place of dread. It had become a sanctuary, a living entity that welcomed our presence. As we stood together in the clearing, the moon shining down upon us, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had journeyed through darkness to find light, both within ourselves and in the world around us. The forest, with its ancient wisdom, had taught us invaluable lessons about respect, balance, and the power of unity. We had transformed not just as individuals, but as a team, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. With newfound strength and understanding, we turned to leave the clearing, our hearts lighter and our spirits lifted. The path ahead was still uncertain, but we knew we would face it together, ready to honor the balance and protect the forest we had come to love. As we emerged from the forest, the weight of our journey settled within us, like a quiet understanding. We had faced our fears, confronted the shadows both inside and outside, and emerged transformed. The clearing, once a site of uncertainty and dread, had become a sanctuary of healing and growth. We understood that the balance we sought to protect was not just an external force, but a reflection of our inner selves. Each of us carried the lessons learned into the world beyond the trees, ready to advocate for the harmony we had come to cherish. Our bond, forged in the crucible of fear and courage, would guide us forward. The journey had taught us the importance of respect, not only for the forest and its spirits, but also for each other. We had learned that vulnerability is a strength, that sharing our truths can illuminate the darkest corners of our souls. With renewed purpose, we vowed to honor the forest watchers and protect the delicate balance of nature, serving as stewards of both the forest and our own growth. In the end, we realized that the journey was not merely about confronting an external entity, but about embracing the complexities of our humanity. We left the forest not just as individuals, but as a cohesive team, united in purpose and spirit, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. Weeks later, the effects of our journey continued to resonate within us. We became advocates for environmental awareness, sharing our experiences and the importance of respecting nature. Clara inspired others with her newfound confidence, while James began mentoring younger officers, helping them trust their instincts. Lisa's research took on new dimensions, integrating the mystical with the scientific. Javier led community initiatives aimed at protecting local ecosystems. Our lives intertwined with the forest, and its lessons became our guiding principles, reminding us that growth often arises from the shadows. Join us in honoring the delicate balance of nature and our shared humanity. Explore the wilderness around you and take a moment to reflect on your own fears and challenges. Embrace vulnerability and connect with others, using your experiences to foster growth and understanding. Advocate for environmental stewardship in your community and become a protector of the natural world. Together, we can create a brighter future where respect for nature and each other guides our actions. Step into the forest of your own journey and discover the transformative power of connection and courage.